Hello and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're going to be doing a quick preview of the remaining venues left on this 2024 fall tour before we jump into some of our listener submissions of their favorite highlights from the fall tour so far. Just as a quick reminder, the best way to keep up with us is via our socials at Slow Ready Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Our socials are definitely the best way to keep up with all our new episode releases, any content we put out, and of course, Goose-related news that we share between episodes. And speaking of the news, before we get into our main topic, we need to jump into the news and notes since our last episode in a segment we're calling Hot Tea. So, first of all, we had a giveaway for 2 tickets to the Winston-Salem show, which we're going to announce here now. So let's pull up the wheel of names of all of our submissions and pick a winner.
Let's do it.
All right, spinning. And the winner is Simeon J. Turner, submitted on Twitter. So awesome. We're going to reach out to you with your tickets here and hope you enjoy the show.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome time. And then second in the news, just wanted to announce that the Wi-Fi checks out. The band announced this shortly after we did our last episode. So all the shows will be streaming on Nugs, including the 2 Hurricane Helene benefit shows, which can be purchased via pay-per-view. But all of the October and November shows should be available for any Nugs subscribers to watch and listen to.
Consider me shocked.
In other news, Goose announced this week that their first YouTube video to hit 1 million views was The Way It Is from Goosemas last year, which Mike was lucky enough to be in attendance for. Pretty cool that that's their first one to hit 1 million, Mike.
Yeah, I can't think of too many videos that would be more deserving. I mean, Hampton just melted down when Bruce stepped out on stage. So that's a core memory for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people. So awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure. It's a terrific watch. I rewatched it for the first time since they first released it, and it had me smiling. I was on an airplane at the time and just was like giggling like a little schoolgirl. And then friends of the podcast, the Corner of Gray Street podcast, did an episode this past week where they hosted Rick, and he talked about some of his songwriting and his relationship with Dave Matthews Band as they were entering the Hall of Fame this week. And it was just a great listen, including some fantastic news that officially was announced that Dawn is a song. So to all the Dawn doubters out there, including me, for a period of time before they started playing it a lot more on its own, it's officially been announced as a song by Rick.
There's an argument that that's the biggest news of the week, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, definitely the biggest news of the week. I mean, we don't even need to do an episode on anything but this. But the last nugget of news, just before we started recording here, the band announced that the Troubadour boards are finally up on Bandcamp to listen to. So anyone who's been waiting for a soundboard of that, great news.
Amazing news.
Going to turn that on as soon as we're done recording here. So with all of that, let's close out our fall tour preview of the venues that are left on this fall tour so far, starting with Thursday of this week, October 24th, at the Ascend Amphitheater in Nashville, Tennessee. And this is a relatively new outdoor amphitheater that opened up in 2015, holds about 6,800 people. Been there before. You get a really cool view of downtown Nashville in the background. Had a bunch of big acts there in the last 9 years, including Fish and Widespread Panic. So should be a really exciting way to kick off the second leg of the fall tour. And it's the band's first time back since they did the 3-night run at the Ryman Auditorium. So any highlights that you want to note from that run there, Mike?
Well, as I said, when we did the W-TED thing for one of those shows last week, the Ryman last year had my brain and ears in a vice grip. So that was one of the most listened to runs, if not the most listened to run from last year for me. So I can't imagine what they're going to let loose on Nashville this Thursday, and super jealous of anyone that's going to be there.
First show since the April Fool's show last year where the band all dressed up as other members of the band and they did a cool jively. So really looking forward to it. And then we move on immediately to the first of the Hurricane Helene benefit shows that Mike and I will be at in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And this is Wake Forest University's basketball arena, but they host a lot of concerts and events there as well. Seats about 14,665 people for concerts. And it's hosted big acts again here, like Billy Strings and Elton John over the years. So big shoes to fill for the band, but awesome they could organize this so last minute.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but being from North Carolina, this whole effort is very near and dear to me. So, very happy again that they're doing these benefit shows. I've been to this arena for basketball games. Excited to see what the layout is for a concert. Have not done that yet. But more than anything, just really excited that we have a Goose show this week to go to. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and the band was just here for 2 shows in North Carolina, that is, in June, and Mike was at both of those, so, his hometown shows.
Yeah.
But we quickly move on here from North Carolina to the Avondale Brewing Company on October 26th in Birmingham, Alabama for the second of the Hurricane Helene benefit shows. And this looks like a really cool outdoor GA venue as well, holding about 3,000 people. There's been interviews with artists like Jason Isbell who've played there who said they love playing this venue. So seems like a good place to watch a show and have some brews. And Goose had played here just last year, and they played highlights like Mississippi Half Step into So Ready and had a cool drip field closer that I listened to before this episode. So great stuff.
Yeah, the show last year was great. Seen pictures of this venue. Looks teeny tiny, but awesome layout. Going to be an amazing time.
For sure. And then we move on a few days later, October 29th through 30th. We have shows at the Fillmore Miami Beach in Miami Beach, Florida. And this is a really small venue. It opened up in about 1950 as the Municipal Auditorium for Miami Beach and hosted things like boxing matches and beauty pageants and things like that. And now it's a concert venue that holds about 2,700 people. So mostly GA here. I think there's a few small seating sections, but they've had artists like The Roots and David Byrne play here. So Miami's in for a treat.
Yeah, Fillmore's tend to run on the small side. It's really interesting. This venue has been like 95 different things, it seems like, since 1950, but really cool layout. Always a good chance to see Goose in a smaller venue because you don't know how long those days are going to last. So, yeah.
And Goose hasn't played a ton of different parts of the geography of Florida before, so it'll be interesting what they choose to play here. I mean, that's kind of a theme of the rest of these Florida shows is they haven't played these cities before. So really interested in this 5-show run down here in Florida, which moves on to the Halloween show at the St. Pete's Pier in St. Petersburg, Florida. And it's the band's first time playing here, like I said. And St. Pete has made this concerted effort the last few years to host a bunch of concerts on the pier. And they've really delivered, in my opinion. They've had artists like the Revivalists play and Ludacris and Goose now. So looks like it's going to be a great time to hang out, kind of like a boardwalk style show that we might get up here in my area, the Northeast, during the summers, but you get it down in the fall in Florida.
Yeah, that pier looks amazing. They just tore down the old one and built this one a couple years ago, and the views look absolutely insane. Because it's Goose and it's Halloween, they're not going to hold any stops back for this one. So if I could be at any show that I'm not going to be at, I think it would be this one.
Yeah, they've since scrapped the Netflix and Chill name, I think 3 or 4 years ago, but it's going to be a themed show for sure. I'm just curious what it's going to be, and you're in for a treat for Halloween. But we quickly move on November 1st and 2nd to the St. Augustine Amphitheater in St. Augustine, Florida, our oldest city in this country. And this is a 5,000 capacity outdoor amphitheater that was opened in 1965 to be used for the play Cross and Sword by Paul Green, which is a reenactment of the founding of St. Augustine and the settlement 400 years prior. The play eventually stopped and was reopened as a concert venue, and they've had acts like Billy Strings here again. We're going to see a lot of Billy Strings venues here on this run, apparently, and My Morning Jacket. So looks like there's a small GA area in the front, pit, and then just regular seating like you'd expect at any outdoor amphitheater.
Yeah, that was a hell of a deep pool there, Alex. Like, holy cow. But yeah, St. Augustine, I grew up in Florida, even though I've been in North Carolina for a long time. St. Augustine is a very pretty and chill town. So if you're trying to make a weekend destination out of a Goose concert, this would be a good one to pick.
And just on a personal note, in elementary school as a child, I grew up in Atlanta, and my family, I had one of my books from school, and I opened it up one day and saw like St. Augustine, oldest city in the country. Da da da. I showed my parents that we went on one trip, and then they wanted to go down every year. That was like the only vacation we took. So great place to go visit. Just shout out to St. Augustine, beautiful town. Probably been 50 times. Okay, maybe not 50, but at least 20. My sister can verify.
Yeah, you might have overdone it a little bit with your family there, but that's cool. That's
I was hostage to them at that point. My parents loved it, but great place. Going to be a great time down there. And then a few days later, we get a little short break. And on November 7th, we go up to Pittsburgh for the show at the Peterson Events Center. And there's something about ACC basketball this leg of the tour. We got Wake Forest earlier. And now we got the University of Pittsburgh basketball arena for a show. And this venue holds about 12,500 people. Mike, you'll be there. And if you're not catching hoops at this spot, there's artists like the Foo Fighters, Jack White, and Nine Inch Nails that have played at this venue. So another place with big shoes for the band to fill, and should be a great time.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to be there. Obviously, wishing I could do the 3-night run in Cincinnati, but circumstances do not allow that. So I've got lots of family in Pittsburgh. I'm going to make a weekend out of it. Very excited to be at this show. And it's, right in the heart of Pittsburgh. So should be awesome.
Hell yeah. Looking forward to getting your review on that one. I wish I could come with you. And that leads into that 3-night run you mentioned. So November 8th through 10th at the Andrew J. Brady Music Center in Cincinnati, a venue that diehard Goose fans are very familiar with from their 2022 New Year's Eve run there. It's a beautiful 4,500 seat amphitheater, or I guess it's an indoor venue, but it's got already some great history at this venue that opened up in December of 2021, looks like. We've got some of the definitive live versions of Goose songs from this live release, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the band pulls out with 3 nights here now in this area that's shown Goose so much love over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure like many others, I've listened to those New Year's Eve shows countless times. They were very near and dear to me when I was first getting started with Goose for sure. Definitely on repeat and still listening to them on occasion now. So it's going to be bananas. 3 nights, you can't go wrong.
This is the spot to hit on this leg of the tour. If you're looking for a song you're chasing or anything like that, you can't beat a 3-night run. You're going to get the best variety and some deep cuts for sure.
Absolutely.
We close out November here with 2 shows on November 12th and 13th at the Anthem in Washington, D.C., another venue I've been to before. Really cool 6,000 seat venue right smack in the middle of the Wharf District of Washington, D.C., right on the waterfront. Tons of restaurants and bars and places to just chill out before and after the show. And it opened in 2017 with the Foo Fighters opening up the venue and Queens of the Stone Age, and has had great acts since, including, Bon Iver, which the band loves, and stuff like that. So it'll be Goose's first time back to DC since 2022, and really looking forward to seeing how they close out this leg of the fall tour here.
Yeah, I love all these smaller venues that you get a chance to go see them in because, like I said, you got to enjoy it now because it won't be along for that long, probably. But seeing pictures of this venue, it looks absolutely awesome. And closing in the capital of the country, kind of a great way to end it all.
I will say the concert I saw there was Queens of the Stone Age in 2017, and it might be the loudest venue I've ever been to. So bring your earplugs just in case.
There you go.
Awesome sound, awesome time there. And then, of course, we close out the year with Goosemas and New Year's Eve in Austin, Texas at the Moody Center. And we'll talk about those later on another episode. We have a lot more to say about New Year's Eve runs in Goosemas. So be on the lookout for that episode during the break in the tour between November and December. But do we want to get into some of our listener submissions for highlights so far from the September tour and the early October shows before this break we just had?
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into it.
All right. So how about we just go down the list of all of our submissions here and rattle off some quick thoughts on these?
I'm down.
The first submission here was from Justin on Facebook, and he said that his highlight was the Empress of Organos from September 2nd in Boston, Massachusetts. Do you have any thoughts on this version of this, Mike?
Well, every Empress is great, but you were at Boston, so it'd probably be appropriate for you to give me your thoughts on this.
Fair enough. Really cool version of this. I hadn't listened to it since the show, honestly. I went and listened back, and cool cheeky interpolation of the way it is early on. We get into this really cool, like, marimba under the sea kind of effect from Rick and Peter early on in the jam, and then it just blows up and is a dance party like you'd expect any Empress. So great pick there, Justin. All right. Secondly, we had Show Rhonda from TikTok, and she submitted This Old Sea from Charlottesville, Virginia, a show we were both at together, our first show together. So great emotional tune here. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, this was the first This Old Sea with the extended vocal sort of like outro from the main song. And then the jam itself was obviously amazing. I think it was my second highlight of the night behind that tumble. So yeah, I think a lot of people rank This Old Sea as the highlight of the whole show. So it was definitely fun to see This Old Sea take a different turn.
Yeah, such an emotional tune. Like I said, this one was the first one that had been jammed out in such a long time. And I think it was my highlight for sure. Just a great jam out of left field. And the band clearly knew immediately. They reposted it to their YouTube for us to all watch, and just terrific stuff. You want to read off the next one here, Mike?
Yeah, so J_Ripple 1977 on Instagram picked Give It Time from the Greek Theater in LA, which Does anyone ever not like hearing Give It Time? Because I'm not on that list of people.
No, great sing along tune. We've gotten a lot of these submissions here today that we'll go through of these shorter tunes, which don't always get the appreciation and love they deserve. But non-jam heavy songs are great songs too by Goose, and it often gets lost in the discussion here. So great sing-along tune, awesome vibes, and it was a cool way to close out that set one at the Greek. And then we move into another submission from Hensley Tyler 726 on X, and he submitted Redbird from the Carnation Washington show on September 21st. And boy, oh boy, this is another great example of the full band jamming the band did this fall tour, and it just explodes in this epic rock head-banging version of Redbird before the normal outro you'd expect from a Redbird and beautiful blissy stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the fastest flying birds you will ever see. I mean, it is just frantic intensity from the jump, and it doesn't really let up. Definitely that Carnation show has a couple gems in it. One of the highlights of the fall tour for sure.
Yeah, that whole set too was nuts. Great stuff. Our next pick was by Lauren Madera on Instagram. She picked Hot Tea from the SPAC show, night 2. Any thoughts on this Hot Tea, Mike?
Yeah, I was there. So I think that rightly so, the hunger site and the drive kind of get all the attention from that night. But don't sleep on the hot tea, especially if you're like me and you just can't get enough great funky vibes. I mean, this hot tea it slaps.
For sure. Yeah. Looked like an awesome dance party. Gets lost in the shuffle of all the great stuff you heard that night, too. But what a great show.
Yeah, for sure.
And then our next pick, we had 2 people submit the same one. So Family and Future Chocolate and Cap'n Jowl on Instagram picked the Autumn Crossing run from Stanford. So travelers into El the Wise on the 28th of September. Really awesome stuff. This might be the definitive version of this run that we've gotten so far, at least in this year. Super high energy travelers. Always love to hear the crowd erupt when they realize it's going to be Elmeg, even though you can kind of expect it at this point after the official release of Autumn Crossing. But great stuff. Beautiful bliss. Great full band jam. Tons of patience on this Elmeg. Terrific.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I've said it before. If you get Autumn Crossing at a show, your night's pretty much instantly made. It's one of the best things that can happen at a Goose show. That being said, I totally agree. I do think this is the definitive version, even though it's been popping up a lot this year. This Elmig alone is just beastly, and it requires so much time and patience, but it is an epic Elmig, and yeah, definitely worthy of being on this list.
Yeah, and we're both big fans of the band just playing great songs. As nice as it is to be able to say, like, I caught one of 2 Autumn Crossings ever all time, like, the more people who hear it, the better, in our opinion. So, great stuff.
Definitely.
How about this next one, Mike? You want to read this one off?
Yeah, so Greg from Facebook had lead up from the Mempho Fest. And that Mempho Fest was really, really a great show, especially for a festival set. I know we both watched that live together and chatted throughout, but it was just a very impressive festival set for sure. And I definitely agree with that lead up being a great pick. It's not played as much as it maybe should be.
Yeah, 2023 had some really good original tunes that debuted, and lead up might be the most emotional of the run. It's short but sweet, but you can definitely hear like that pop punk influence that Rick talks about from his past in this one, and really great vessel for an emotional guitar solo, but very short. Fresh 27 Maker on Instagram picked the So Ready into Zalt run from SPAC. Again, to show you where at, Mike. So what'd you think of this one?
I mean, I can talk about 9/7 all day if that's what people want. I will. But that encore was absolutely insane. It was already like a perfect show in my book. And when So Ready starts, you're like, okay, great. I'm going out on a energy high. This is perfect night with a perfect ending. But then to also get that epic Zalt coming out of it, which nobody saw coming, I don't think. It didn't feel that way in the venue. Just unbelievable finish.
So Ready's always a funky time. You get the surprise curveball of Zalt instead of the satellite outro, and the band really wanted to play that satellite for like a week after that and just could never squeeze it into a set list. So shout out to this. Next up, we got 2 submissions from the Troubadour. We had Radzu, friend of the pod, Tammy. She said the whole Troubadour show, and then Madik Q. Schneider said the creatures from the Troubadour. Awesome stuff. Now that we have the soundboards, I'm going to listen back to this one again in more detail, but it was such a dance party listening to the crudely taped version that we had access to. It almost made you want more of this creatures. It was definitely going places, and it went right into Shamalama, but You can't turn down that opportunity, but really great disco dance party here with this Creatures.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment because I haven't listened to it. It has taken all of my willpower that I have to resist until these soundboards. So as soon as we stop recording, I'm jumping right into the Troubadour. So I'll let y'all know how I think about it on a different episode. But yeah, I'm so excited. We've got soundboards to listen to after this.
We've been spoiled with sound quality from this band, so I totally understand. I force myself to listen to phone recordings and all that just to be prepared. How about you read this next one off, Mike?
Yeah, so Blake _ Hess from IG said that Thatch 10-4 again from the Mempho Fest, which I was a big fan of this Thatch. It probably is my highlight from the festival. I think I mentioned in our previous episode, but they played Thatch a couple nights before, and it was, in my opinion, way too fast. But this Thatch was banging.
Yeah, you said it, dude. It was a great version, pretty compact. I think it was shorter than a normal version you'd expect, but great stuff. Rick was ripping, and great way to highlight what this band does for a festival crowd that might not be as familiar with their work. And then Dreaming B8 from X said Dripfield from September 27th at the Greek Theater. Wow. Just wow is all I got to say about this. This is the definitive version of Dripfield from this year for sure. Super patient, full band jamming all around, goes into this beautiful ethereal space, and once again proves that Dripfield is the most iconic song in this band's catalog and is like the definitive Goose sound when I think of Goose.
I could maybe make an argument for Arcadia there, but I hear your point. Either way, I totally 100% agree with you. This is the definitive version of Dripfield. I think I've listened to it like 7 times this week, and that's been that way since it got released. So this Dripfield will rank very highly. I can guarantee it in my end of year rankings. It's got everything.
Yeah, it's really everything you want out of a full band jam. And again, the kind of democratic process that this band has been using, especially in this fall tour, of sharing the jams and ideas and concepts and building together, has been really refreshing to hear. And this is probably the best example of it from this tour, in my opinion. How about the next one, Mike?
Yeah, so maybe I'll say this wrong, but Terwamos on X picked Dragging the Line from Eugene, Oregon, which I think everyone was really happy to see that cover come back up. It was a kind of a pleasant surprise, and this whole Pacific Northwest run is just absolutely insane. But would love to see that pop back up later here on this next leg coming up, or at Goosemiths or something. I think it'd be a real treat to catch Dragging the Line again.
Yeah, this was the first time it had been played since Halloween of 2021, one of those Netflix and chill shows. And just a great slow blues cover and a vibe that Rick can really rip on that doesn't get very much love sometimes from this band. You know, we get a lot more high energy stuff, but terrific stuff. Really nice to see this one come back and would love to catch this one. Maddie S402 on Instagram picked Hot Love and the Lazy Poet from the Greek Theater. Wow, the Greek Theater is really popular for these submissions here. Hot Love, amazing opener. Really glad this song came back from the Fusudo days and debuted earlier this year because it's been probably the definitive opener of 2024 so far, and just a great way to have a smile on your face and a dance party to start a show.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most fun songs that they have in the catalog. It's definitely one of the best things that I think has come out of 2024, besides what you said just a comment ago about the full band improvisation. That probably is the best thing for me. But I definitely agree. I think Hot Love is the best opener in the catalog for me right now, although it works anywhere in a set, and there's no wrong time to hear it.
I just love a Matt Campbell song. You can always
Yes.
catch his vibe, even if you're not as familiar with the songwriters of every song. You like know which songs are Matt Campbell songs just from the way that they flow.
Vasudo is the shit.
Yeah, we need a Vasudo tour
Yes,
ASAP.
we do.
Let's announce that. Maybe a surprise Vasudo show in Viva El Gonzo. Who knows?
That's a good
Just
idea.
throwing it out there. Let's manifest that. Next up, we had JV Gregor on X, who picked Arrow from the Night One show. It's back. You missed this one by one show, Mike. You couldn't make it to Night One. Any thoughts on this Arrow?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to it on my drive up to upstate New York to catch night two. So, I mean, night one, it made me sad that I couldn't be there because obviously listening to it in real time, it was outstanding. And I think the Arrow probably, if I'm forced to choose, would be my highlight from night one. Although that Everything Must Go is pretty awesome too. But yeah, this Arrow is it follows in line with the Fox Arrow a little bit, kind of similar themes, and just epic dark awesomeness.
You love to see an arrow. This has been the definitive song of 2024, along with Tumble, in my opinion. So, no, another excellent version to throw into the catalog, along with the rest from this year. Definitely goes for punch with the arrow from Atlanta, in my opinion. It's not quite as good; it doesn't hit that peak, but very, very close. Any thoughts on the next one, Mike?
Yeah, so McDonough Kyle on Instagram, I know you have thoughts on this as well, picked a Western Sun from the Salt Shed, which I don't know. There are definitely days since it happened that I think it's my favorite thing to happen with Goose all year long, besides the addition of Cotter, which is like kind of a given at this point. It may even be past some of my highlights from the Cap Theater run. This Western Sun with Julian Lodge is everything to me as a music fan.
Yeah, I think if I was picking my highlight of the entire tour, this one would be up there at the top. Julian Lodge is just such an amazing jazz guitarist, and I mentioned it on the episode where we highlighted the show, but just his use of dissonance in his soloing and kind of his back and forth with Rick, where they had kind of a jazz off, and Rick was pulling from his Berkeley days, was just so terrific. By far, my most listened to track from this fall tour. Been on repeat whenever I'm taking a break from pod prep. This song always seems to come up first. And just the love between this band and Julian is just so apparent. And I hope he gets a lot more in the future.
Same.
Next up, we had Caroline Bonnet on Instagram, who picked This Old Sea from San Diego on September 26th. And this is a little bit more of a compact version from the one we saw in Charlottesville, but just as emotional. And we got that kind of extended woes outro here. So any thoughts on this one in specific, Mike?
Just that I'm still a big fan of what they've added to the song this year. I like the new addition of the vocal run that they do here at the end of the song proper, and I will always maintain I think it's the most emotional song in their catalog. So I love This Old Sea.
Definitely. Next up, another 9/7 song from SPAC, Earthling or Alien, from Richard on Facebook. You were here, so you have to give us give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so like I mean, it basically is Drive and Hunger Sight to me are like the works of art from that night, but Hot Tea and Ear A are the two most fun times I had that evening. So super funky, super crunchy, almost like an aluminum kind of crunch to it. It's just all of the space sounds, all of the sauce. It's a spicy Earthling or Alien, and I'm here for it.
This song just continues to define itself as like the definitive funk vehicle of this band. Short but sweet version here, like you said, but you get really great funk stuff and then a kind of classic rock inspired outro on this one. So really fun time, even though it's short.
James C. Huff 68 on X picked No California for the Greek Theater in LA. So I think given the moment, and it's only been covered a handful of times, to be playing that in LA, I think just the significance of the moment, not to mention they really kill it with this cover. They do an amazing job with it. So super fitting, super great moment, and it's a great cover.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. We had only gotten it Oreblo before this year, so terrific stuff. I hope to really catch this one soon. Come on, Winston-Salem. Even though we're nowhere close to California, love to hear it. Next up, another friend of the podcast here, Home Slice 41 from Instagram, Stacy. I was at this show with her. Picked Creatures from Boston, Massachusetts, and this was our first foray into a more extended version of Creatures than we had gotten earlier in the year here. Just a straight dance party. Lucky enough to share this with you, Stacy, and hope you enjoyed your first Goose show.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good Creatures. I've loved Creatures this year. Some of them I felt like could have been jammed out more, like this one perhaps, but it's still very, very fun. And I don't think Creatures really ever lets me down.
Next up, we had Maddie Johnson on Instagram picked Hunger Sight from MemphoFest. This closed out that festival set. Short version of this, very, very similar to the album cut of this. It's really kind of interesting to hear a short version of this, but can you beat a Hunger Sight at a Goose show? Like, that just hits you in the heartstrings.
Yeah, it seems to me like every Goose show that I'm at, like if Hunger Sight is played, I feel like it gets the loudest crowd reaction by far. It's like not even close. Like people lose their collective shit when Hunger Sight starts. So definitely agree. You're never going to have a bad time with that song. And almost all of them seem to measure up against the best of Goose. So
Yeah, just a terrific way to close out a set. Hard to beat that. And then next up, we had Watson Bryant on X submit Creatures from Troutdale, Oregon. Really great one here. More extended than even the one we talked about from Boston. Just a crazy dance party. It got pretty heavy at one point there during this Creatures, and wow, the crowd looked like they were having a fantastic time at this one. Really jealous. I was watching this live at home, staying up till 2 a.m. to watch these Goose shows from the East Coast, but was definitely having some envy, and you might have seen me turn green a little bit because I really want an epic Creatures like this. Any thoughts on this one, Mike?
Yeah, this is a huge highlight of fall tour for me. It's very dancey, like you said. I think this one, it jumps out as me as like almost having Disco Biscuit vibes. I may have said that when we did our recap of that, but it definitely feels like it's in the same musical zone that the Biscuits tend to inhabit. And it's fun to see Goose kind of go to that musical area because they definitely have songs that, you know, become bops and dancey versions of certain songs. But this one, more so than most of what I've heard from them, is just like it's beyond dancey. It's something else.
You absolutely nailed it there. It definitely hits those Disco Biscuits vibes, like you said, and you got like a punchier feel to it than you're used to. So really appreciate this version. I'm gonna turn this one on after I listen to the Troubadour after this episode. All right, next pick, another one from the show you were at, Mike. So how about you read this one off?
Yeah, so Jay Zambrisky picked Drive from SPAC Night 2, which this drive, it kind of reminds me of like it's almost in the same zone to a certain extent as the Man Tumble, just in that it's almost got that same rock ballad type of feel to it or spirit. So they kind of share some commonalities, a little bit 80s vibes on it, but just absolutely gorgeous and super original compared to other drives. Like, you know, if you're into Goose over the last year, there's been a number of drives that have been, you know, very important. This drive, I feel like, does something completely different.
Very different from that Cap version from earlier in the year, like you mentioned, that has been getting a lot of love in terms of Jam of the Year conversations and things like that. But I think this one might overtake it for my taste personally. Just definitely like the best version of this from this fall tour, and especially coming after that Holmdel version where we got just a truncated version. I wasn't sure if it was going to be jammed out at this point. So very pleasant surprise, the highlight of the show in my opinion, and would love to catch a drive like this as well. And last but certainly not least, our contest winner, Simeon J. Turner, picked this. Madhuvan from San Diego, but also Turned Clouds from X picked this. And just want to shout him out here real quick. Turned Clouds has been going through a rough time here lately, and the community has been thinking about him on X. Just seen a lot of posts about that. So also wanted to say that we're thinking of you. Getting into this Madhuvan here, just terrific stuff. You have any thoughts on this version, Mike?
Yeah, my thought is that it might be my jam of the year. That's my thought. This is just an absolute crazy ride. You absolutely need 2 seatbelts to strap into this Madhuvan. It's just absolutely insane. And I listened to it daily since it happened.
Yeah, way different range than we got from Holmdel or even Denver earlier in the year. I can tell why this is your favorite. This kind of hits the same notes as that tumble from the Cap in some ways. Just a beautiful ethereal space it hits at one point, and another full band slow build jam. I might have spoken too soon earlier when I said that we saw some of the best full band jamming, because this is in the conversation and definitely worthy of some jam of the year consideration, like you said. So really great submissions from all of you folks. We're so happy that so many of you wanted to have a conversation with us and submit your picks. And even if you didn't enter the giveaway, you still wanted to have a conversation about songs. We got lots of messages and comments. So this was awesome. And we really hope that we continue to get more highlights. And if you want to reach out to us and let us know your highlights, we're happy to take an email from you anytime, slowreadypod@gmail.com. We can geek out about shows together, or just message us on our socials or leave a comment on one of our posts. Happy to talk there too. So just a reminder to follow all of our pages at Slow Ready Pod. And thank you for listening to this episode. We've had a great time here. And even though it's a short one, it's a sweet one. So take us out, Mike.
Yeah, just like Alex said, remember to follow us on socials. We will be back on Monday with an episode to recap the first few shows from this second leg getting under here. So me and Alex can't wait to talk about what Goose does on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So yeah, thank you so much for the submissions. These were excellent picks. Love reading through them, and hope to see some of y'all in Winston on Friday.
See you guys.